Once again, welcome to the Princeton Athletics Hall of Fame, as this is a great celebration for all of those that have accomplished great things here at Princeton. And we want to, once again, thank you for taking your time this evening and coming out. Once again, thanks to our administration on doing a wonderful job with our students. We really, really appreciate all of the effort, thought, and care. Once again, thank you to our athletic staff, who does a phenomenal job at making sure that our students have the necessary tools for the extracurricular activities. We greatly appreciate you for your support. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our superintendent, who's done a phenomenal job leading the way during this COVID-19 effort. And I would say that he's probably superintendent of the year. Does a phenomenal job advocating for our communities. Without further ado, Mr. Tom Burton.
Thank you, Al. You know, it's my pleasure to represent Princeton City Schools, and on behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations to all the inductees tonight. It's going to be an unbelievable night. I'm not going to keep you long, but I did want to talk about a couple different things. There's probably one person in the audience that's an inductee that's a little bit nervous. And I love the fact right now 4 people are thinking, that's me. But it's actually Doobie. Because 3 weeks into my tenure as an associate superintendent, Doobie, you remember this, I was at Lincoln Heights Days, and I was in line getting ready to tear up some bones from this great barbecue place that was there. And Doobie came up to me and said, hey, I heard about this new associate superintendent. Doobie, is that not true? Yes, sir. And shortly thereafter, Doobie and I were talking about this unbelievable team of 1987. And he was so proud, and never did he brag individually about what he accomplished. And that very much is what it is about tonight. It is not about any individual part. It's about the sum of all the parts. So whether or not individual or team, you know you would not be here if others didn't lift you up, if others didn't encourage you and push you to do more, to be different, to work outside of practice. Because quite frankly, and we have great coaches and have always had great coaches in this district, but it was what happened outside that made a difference so many times. And just like right now, we tell our kids that, listen, everybody practices. You need to do that little bit extra. So what does that mean? So the moms and dads and uncles and aunts, guardians and friends who spent time, and those people who couldn't be here tonight, because I know there's people that couldn't be here tonight, that helped lift you. It is very much about you as well. So all the individual accolades that you hear, and let's be honest, it is about plaques. It is about awards and trophies and certificates, because you wouldn't be here if you weren't all state, if you weren't all city, if you weren't a state champion. You wouldn't be here tonight. However, it's the sum of all the parts. That's what makes the difference. So tonight I'm humbled, as I always am, to represent Princeton. We have an unbelievable team. Tonight, Dr. Mary Phillips, she knows. She lifts me, encourages me, and helps me. And so, Al, I appreciate the kind words, but ultimately it's about the team. It always has been and always will be. Board of Education that supports, pushes, nurtures, encourages. That's what it's about. So I know we're going to hear lots of stories tonight about how other people helped along the way. Perhaps it was that person, that voice in the stands that would scream out, come on, number 4. Come on, 18, 24, 78, 38, doesn't matter. They were there for you. And some of you know that in college, they still talked about high school numbers. And that is true, because there's something different about high school sports. There's something different about Princeton. And many of you went on to great college careers. But ultimately, when you look at it, it's about what you did at Princeton. And I'm only 6 years in to Princeton. But I have to tell you, you guys got me. Whether you want me or not, I'm staying. Because Princeton is something different. Moved my family down here 6 years ago. We have 2 graduates and another one right now that's representing Princeton, getting ready to play water polo at 9:40 tonight. They're 2-0, by the way, today. They'll be 3-0 at the end of the evening. If not, he's grounded. Let's be honest. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of very quick things. That when you think about everything that's you've accomplished, I mean, some of you been out for a while. Now, I know I kicked Doobie under the bus a little bit, but I was nice then. I'm not going to be nice now. Doobie, you're old. And so are the rest of y'all that graduated, whether it was 1988, 89 or not, y'all old. But here's the thing. You still remember what it means to be a Viking. And that is something that brings us together and something that keeps us together. Every day is not perfect. But what does make perfection is the fact that we recognize others in our lives that lifted us, encouraged us to be better, be different, and be a Viking. With that, congratulations to each and every one of you, because you are all part of it, but especially to the inductees, the individual inductees and the team. You earned it. Congratulations and welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burton. Greatly appreciate your service once again. Just like to take a moment of reflection and a moment of silence for those Vikings that have gained their wings or family members that have gone on before us. So if you just take a moment and give a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you. Once again, this is a great, great celebration, and I am definitely honored, class of '94, to be before you. I want to thank my '94 sister back there, LaToya. It's great to be able to go through life, and when you circle back, you see those connections and you see those friendships that you have, and they're life-lasting and last a long time, and definitely value our Viking familyship and also our friendship. So thank you, LaToya, for all you do for our student athletes as well. So thank you. And now for our induction of our Hall of Fame honorees for this evening. Our first honoree is Mr. Paul Andrews. Paul Andrews was born in East Bernstead, Kentucky on December 13th, 1947. Coach Andrews attended Hazel Green High School, Union College, and Eastern Kentucky University. Paul also served in the Army for 3 years. In 1975, he began teaching, and his head coaching career started at Taft High School. He went on to coach at Woodward High School, Princeton High School, and ended his coaching career at Laughlin High School as a basketball coach. Combined, his basketball teams won over 400 games. 200 of those wins were at Princeton High School. Coach Andrews also served as an assistant coach in track and field as well as golf. Coach Andrews is married to Paula Andrews. They have a son and a daughter, Chris and Frenchen. Congratulations to Mr. Paul Andrews. He was unable to attend this evening, but he did have some words to accept his award.
About your induction into about 5 minutes, roughly.
Okay, I'll take 2.
Okay, here we go, Coach. We can start when you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay. Hello, this is Paul Andrews. I'm, first of all, glad to be inducted into the Princeton Hall of Fame. That's been a a dream of mine since I retired. I've always thought that I would had a possibility of getting into the Hall of Fame, but as most people do, I thought it would be after I had gone to heaven and been deceased. But I really appreciate the selection committee for selecting me at this time in my life. We all have jobs to do, or we had jobs to do, unless we retired at this time. But I would like to thank God for the fact that I was allowed to do what I love, and that's coaching and teaching and working with young people and trying to influence their lives a little bit in a positive way. As being selected into the Hall of Fame, I have several people to thank, but if I be specific and name so many individuals, I have so many people to thank that I might leave somebody out. So I just like to say that I enjoyed working with the different administrations that I did have the pleasure of working with. I was blessed to have a family that was very patient and understanding with me to allow me to coach and be away from them for so many hours and so many years, and maybe neglect some of the time that I should have spent at home. But they were patient and worked with me in that and always supported me. I would like to thank my players, my coaches, and there's a couple of people that really stand out, that really helped me get to where I was at Princeton High School as far as the coaching goes. And I don't like to mention names a lot, but I have to mention these people. I would like to thank Coach Pat Mancuso and his assistant athletic director, Pat Walden, for giving me a second chance to complete a job that my first 5 years I feel that I started, but then there was a big lapse in time where I didn't have a chance to finish my job. So then they allowed me a second chance. Everybody doesn't get a second chance in life. So I got a second chance to come back and finish the job, almost finish the job that I started, but at least to lead the program in a respectable position. That basketball was respected throughout the city, I feel, that after I left. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had this one guy, and I hope one day he gets in the Princeton Hall of Fame, because he bleeds red, and that is Mike Wilson. Mike is still today a good friend of mine, but this guy would work all day and all night trying to think of ideas to help make the program better. And he was really, really the person behind me that kept me going and kept everything so positive. He loved Princeton. Like I said, he bleeds red, and he loved the Princeton family. And also, I'd like to say, last but not least, I don't know how much time I have here, but I love you guys, and I want to congratulate all the new inductees this year with me. I have a special interest in one because he played for me, Ross Morin. And I did say I wasn't going to get into names, but Ross helped elevate the program, great kid, and a hard worker, and probably smarter than anybody on the floor. That at the time that he was there, I appreciate him, and I appreciate Princeton High School for giving me the opportunity to correct a job that I started and to finish coaching at Princeton High School. So again, thanks to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful time. I apologize that I couldn't be there. It's a family matter that I had to take care of. But if you ever want to talk to me, if you want to go play some golf, and I do bowl, of course, but I would love to see and talk to everyone that's there tonight, especially the inductees. And again, congratulations to you. I know sometimes we take the simple things in life for granted, but I am a survivor of the COVID, of course, so which has taken a whole lot of people out. So I'm fortunate enough to be here tonight to say to you that God is good all the time. And thanks again. I appreciate you, and thanks for the induction. Love you guys, and take care.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Andrews. such a fine person. I remember him being a gym teacher and just a gentle giant, very quiet, very humble, and had a great spirit. And I'm glad to see him as one of our Hall of Fame inductees. Congratulations. Our next inductee is Miss Nicole Donnelly Cunningham. Nicole attended Princeton City Schools from preschool at Sharonville Elementary all the way through high school. She was a member of the women's high school soccer team from 2006 to 2010 and started as a freshman. The team finished the season 8-3-6, and she tied for the 7th in the league for points, having 27 with 11 goals and 5 assists. After her freshman year, she made second team all-conference. Sophomore year, she ended 8-3-6. Nicole was second in the GMC with 35 points, 14 goals, 7 assists, and named first team all-conference. Junior year, the team was 5-12 and made it to the second round of the tournament. Nicole was sixth in the league with 32 points, 12 goals, and 8 assists. During her junior year, in the third game of the season, she broke the scoring record for career goals. She finished that year earning first team all-conference. Senior year, the team ended with a 4-9-4 record, 10 goals and 2 assists, and 6 in the conference. In a 5-0 win against Hamilton, she broke the record for goals in a game with 4. Nicole ended her year first team all-conference. She was also the three-time first team all-city selection player in the senior all-star game and voted MVP twice. In addition to playing on Princeton women's soccer team, Nicole also played for Cincinnati United Premier Soccer Club, Ohio South State champions 3 years in a row, as well as a member of the track team competing in the 200 open, the 400-meter open, and the 4x400 relay, and the 4x800 relay. Nicole earned a full-ride scholarship to Eastern Kentucky University, where she was a 4-year starter, a 3-year captain, among other accolades. She graduated in May 2014 with an elementary education degree. Her husband, Chris, is the outside linebacker and special teams coordinator for Murray State University, where they live with their 2 daughters, Larkin and Kendall. Nicole is in her seventh year of teaching, currently 4th grade. Congratulations, Nicole Donnelly Cunningham. If you'll please step forward and accept your award right here at the table. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Guess I could take this off. Hi, I'm Nicole. First of all, I want to congratulate all the other inductees as well. It's an extreme honor to be in the same conversation with all the other inductees and reading about them and hearing about them. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate being here. I want to thank, of course, my family. My parents are my dates tonight because spring football, so my husband couldn't make it. They play tomorrow for the conference championship, so good luck to them. And my brother, who gets to babysit tonight, he was, in the yard tackling me, and probably what really got me here. So part of this can probably go to him, and he would love to hear that, I'm sure. My teammates, of course, trusting me to lead them, to be a captain for them. They were awesome. Of course, I wouldn't be here without all of my amazing teammates and my coaches, Fuss and Isaacs, who trusted me as well to captain the team, to be a leader, believing in me and, allowing me and telling me not to be afraid to be great. I'm super proud to be from Princeton. I have lived away for a while because of the football life, but I've always, stayed in contact with Princeton and followed what's going on, and I have a lot of pride being from Princeton, and I really, I wouldn't miss being here. I was extremely excited, so thank you, and again, congratulations to everyone else.
Once again, Ms. Nicole Donnelly Cunningham. Our next inductee is Mr. Maurice Harvey. Maurice grew up in Lincoln Heights. He was the first class to graduate all 4 years from Princeton High School. Maurice played baseball his sophomore and senior year. He also played football all 4 years. His junior year, the team lost to Warren Western Reserve in 1972 in Ohio's first AAA state championship game. During his senior year, Maurice was a captain, all conference, and made second team AP Class 3 All Ohio in 1973. He was captain in the Cincinnati East-West All-Star Game, which coaches Bron Bakovich, Roger Bacon, and Pat Mancuso. He also played in the North-South All-Star Game and the Ohio-Pennsylvania Big 33 All-Star Game. Maurice went on to attend Ball State University, obtaining his bachelor's degree in physical education and health with a minor in teaching preparation for multicultural children. While attending at Ball State, he was a 3-year Letterman, 2-time All-MAC defensive back, and was on Ball State's first MAC championship team in 1976. He also played in the East-West Shrine Game in 1977. Maurice was inducted into the Ball State Hall of Fame in 1988 and also in the MAC Hall of Fame in 1992. After college, he was drafted into the NFL by the Oakland Raiders, 86th player in the 4th round in 1978. He went on to have a 7-year NFL career playing for the Denver Broncos, Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. After his football career, he went on to teach, coach football, track, and basketball. He was also an exercise consultant at the Senior Citizens Recreation Center and a health and wellness coordinator for Rehabilitation Corporation before retiring in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, Maurice Harvey. Mr. Harvey will just say some quickly brief words, and thank you.
Thank you.
Job well done, Mr. Harvey. We greatly appreciate you. Thank you for coming back. And for our next honoree, Ross Morin. Ross attended Princeton City Schools from preschool through high school, graduating in 2005. As a Viking, Ross was a 2-sport Letterman, playing water polo, where he was a 2-year all-state selection, and basketball, where he played all 4 years on varsity and broke the school's all-time scoring record. Ross attended Yale University, where he captained the men's basketball team, earned all Ivy League honors twice, and was awarded academic all-district honors. After college, Ross played professionally in Switzerland and Argentina. Ross currently lives in Chicago with his wife, Hillary, and their newborn son, Hugh. Congratulations, Ross Morin.
Ross Morin could not be with us this evening, but he did want to share a few words on his acceptance as a member of the 2020 class of the Princeton Athletic Hall of Fame. Ross?
Hey, hello, everybody. I just wanted to say thank you to Princeton and to congratulate my fellow nominees. It's a huge honor to be inducted, and I'm really honored to be a part of this prestigious group. When I got the call about being inducted, I began to think about everything I wanted to say, and there's just so much to say about the school and the relationships I developed along the way, but what I decided was more fitting and more important to me was to talk a little about people who made my journey so special. I'm going to start by thanking my wife, Hillary. She has to deal with all my aches and pains that came from my playing and training over the years without having the benefit of seeing my glory days in person. At least now she'll have to believe some of the stories that I tell her. I really wish that Hillary and I and our 3-month-old son, Hugh, could be sharing this moment with you all in person, but it's just been one of those years. Secondly, I want to say a few words about a fellow nominee, one who I was fortunate enough to share my 4 years with at Princeton, Mr. Paul Andrews, truly a living legend, not only for the work he's done on the court, but he's also the finest golf and bowling class instructor that Princeton has ever had to offer. I hope that's still a thing there. First, I need to acknowledge Drews for seeing the potential in me and taking a chance on a quiet, gangly freshman. He provided me with the opportunity right out of the gate to prove myself on varsity despite being surrounded by some truly talented players in their own right. There's something that Drews told me freshman year that stuck with me. We were working on some scoring moves from the foul line, and he said, I will know that you've made it when you take the ball from here, one dribble, dunk it on everybody, and scream running down the court. And while I unfortunately played the game closer to the ground than Drews or anyone else would have liked, that sentiment of that comment was something that I try to carry with me my entire playing career. When I think about my time at Princeton, it really comes down to the people I shared the court with. Being 2 years apart from each one of my brothers, it was the only time I was teammates with each one of them. Eric, my older brother, who turned out to be this really kind and gentle soul, was a menace on the basketball court, a best brother of a teammate, truly my favorite type of player to play with and my least favorite type of player to play against. I was also able to share the water polo pool with Craig, my little brother. It was the first time I really got to see him in action on a daily basis. And to no surprise of anyone who knows him, Craig turned out to be the hardest of workers, a master of the craft, and really tough as nails. Ended up being a much better player than myself, which was really awesome to see. To my teammates, there are a laundry list of guys that made my 4 years here really special. While I have no desire to lace up my shoes, run sprints, or bang around again, I do miss the camaraderie, the preparing for games together, the bus rides, and celebrating in the locker room after a win. I definitely enjoyed the journey with you guys. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, I want to thank my parents for the countless hours spent driving me to and from practices, for the constant support, for providing me with the space to find my passion on my own, and really for sending me to Princeton. Like many of you that are here today, Princeton has meant more to me than just a place that I went to school and played sports, more so than my time at Yale or years spent playing basketball in Europe or South America. Princeton was the place that shaped my worldview. It's truly a special institution, a place where all different types of people come together under a shared roof. And the world would be in much better shape today if there were more Princeton high schools around. And with that, I just want to say thank you again to the school and congrats to the other nominees and to everyone out there in person and watching remote. Please stay safe and go Vikes.
Congratulations, Ross Morin. Our next two inductees, their family will accept their award on their behalf. First inductee is Mr. Joe Saunders. Joe Saunders, 1937 graduate of Glendale High School, is credited with winning 11 state titles and 7 state championships. Along with his brother, they collected 18 individual state championships and 7 state records. Ironically, most of the time, the two brothers were the only members of the team. In 1978, Joe and John were inducted into the Ohio High School Cross Country Track and Field Hall of Fame. In 1985, Eckstein Park in Glendale is renamed to Saunders Park by the city of Glendale. Congratulations, Mr. Joe Saunders. And now for the sibling, John Saunders. John is a graduate of Glendale High School, class of 1938, along with his brother Joe. They are, without question, considered the most decorated student athletes to come out of Glendale. Playing multiple sports, football, baseball, and track, John saw only one loss on the football field, falling to Reading 36-32. It was John that scored all 32 of the team's points that day. John was also the member of the school's marching band and would play at halftime. It was on the track where he saw most of his success. He was state record holder in the high hurdles, 100 yards, 220 yards, and the long jump. He captured state championships from 1935 to 1938 in the following events: the 120-yard dash, high hurdles, 100-yard dash, the 220-yard, and the long jump. John attended Miami University in Oxford for 3.5 years before being drafted to serve in the war. In 1941, he was selected All-American and represented the university at the NCAA Track and Field Championship in Palo Alto, California, first in school history. In 1978, Joe and John were inducted into the Ohio High School Cross Country Track and Field Hall of Fame, and in 1985, Eckstein Park once again was named Saunders Park by the city of Glendale. In 1994, John was inducted into the National High School Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations to Joe and John Saunders.
Only take a moment. That's not really true. I'd like to thank Joe and the staff, athletic department of Princeton High School for taking the time to go back a bit. And when Joe called me, I didn't understand why they were trying to connect with my dad and my uncle. My dad is John, and he's the one that played in the band, so you can kind of. But once Joe explained it to me, it's like you're kind of reaching back into the old neighborhoods who no longer have those schools and bringing them here because their siblings and their kids are now here at Princeton, so it makes it a much bigger family. They grew up right up the road there in Glendale. My Uncle Joe was the older one, and then it's 1932 when Glendale's track team started. They only had Joe. He was the guy. And my father had not come along yet. So you see all this stuff that they've done, and it's basically what I was going to tell you. But in 1934, it's way back, they ran, and I did too back in the day, but cinder tracks. You know what cinder tracks is? It's ground up. That ain't no joke. But anyway, when my Uncle Joe started, he was the only guy on the team, and that year he won the 100 and the 200 and the 220-yard dash by himself. The next year was 1935. That's when my dad came as a freshman. And they won the state championship. It was just the two of them. My Uncle Joe won the 100, the 220-yard dash, and the 220 low hurdles. My dad came along and he won the 120 high hurdles, took a second in the 220 low hurdles, and won the long jump. Another thing that they never talked a lot about what they did, their exploits, because of the time period. They had none of this kind of information. They only had what they knew. We knew they ran track, but we didn't know they were this good. And so there were no papers, there were some medals. And And as time went by, there was, when they tore down the high school, they never put the trophies that they won on these state championship teams. They never put their trophies in the trophy case. They took their trophies and they put them in a box and they put them in the basement. So when they got ready to tear the school down, they found this box. It's been down there for all these years. Now we're talking about 1970 or maybe even 80. So the school decided or the city decided to, they didn't know what to do with it now. They done messed up. Now what you gonna do? So what they decided to do was this. They decided to give the trophies to my dad and my uncle. My uncle still lived in Glendale. We lived out in Kennedy Heights. And so they gave this box of trophies to my uncle. 6 months out of the year, my Uncle Joe would have them. Okay? He'd pack them up, bring them out to us, and my dad would have them. And they did that for years and years and years. But it made us realize, because now you can see it. You know, now you can see it. And now the stories that they tell are real because you can see what they did. My Uncle Joe was kind of a quiet guy, but my dad is somewhat of a storyteller himself. So just bear with me. I'm happy to do this, but I want you to also know. So they won the state championship in I did little cards at school. So in 1936, my Uncle Joe evidently got hurt and he didn't run, okay? So it was my dad, and that year at the state meet, he won the 120-yard high hurdles and the 220 low hurdles. And he took third place in the state meet for Glendale High School, okay? Another thing about these hurdles, I want to make sure. My dad told me, I used to try to run them too, but my dad told me the hurdles for high school back in those days were 42 inches high. Now they're only 39. So I can imagine how much faster he would have been if they were lower, you know? But he was not that tall of a guy. They were thin, but a little bit different. Back in 1937, so we're still back there, my Uncle Joe came back. And that year, my Uncle Joe took second in the 100, second in the 220, and he got fifth in the 220-yard low hurdles. My dad took first in the 100, first in the high hurdles. He got fourth in the long jump. One other thing, too. To hear my father tell it, he was actually faster than my Uncle Joe, because that's the way it was. But what he also said is, back in that time, it was kind of frowned upon in the neighborhood if the younger brother outdid the older brother. So I kind of believe it, because actually my dad did a little bit better in the long run. But so that's what happened. So 1938, my dad was there by himself again. My Uncle Joe had gotten a scholarship to Miami University. And again, he won the 100, the 220-yard high hurdles, the low hurdles, and the long jump. He won the 100. Then he had 15 minutes before the high hurdles, but he won the high hurdles. My father won the high hurdle championship for 4 years in a row. That's a record that stood for 18 years. Nobody else had done that. He also hold on. Can't read my notes here. He also won the long jump. That record stood for 36 years. As a freshman, my father won one championship. As a sophomore, he won 2. As a junior, he won 3. And as a senior, he won 4. He was the first to win 4 individual championships in one event. 64 years before somebody else did it. And he was the first one to three-peat in the 100-yard dash, because after that first year, he kind of like didn't care what they said because he couldn't hold back. So he used to tell me this. He used to say, I'd walk up to the line on the 100, and I'd look around and say, who's taking second? Now, that's my father telling me that. Then, a couple years back, I think there's this guy, Usain Bolt, did the same thing. So he must have took it from my dad. So, but he won the 100 3 years in a row also. A couple more things, I'm done, but I took all this time to write this down, so you're gonna hear it. We know they played football. He was in the band, he did all the touchdowns and all that stuff. They only lost the one game. Back then also, it was strange because they were allowed to play football and baseball and run track, but they couldn't play basketball. They weren't allowed inside, okay? So they went and they had, I guess it's like the boys club or something like that. They called it high Y. So they wouldn't play basketball in another setting. They won. My dad also pitched on the baseball team. They let him play baseball. He pitched on the baseball team. As I said, they both went to Miami University. My dad went up after my Uncle Joe. And they ran the dashes, and they did the long jump, the hurdles, and they ran relays. My Uncle Joe ended up tearing something in his leg, and it kind of squashed his future. But my dad kept running, and at one point he got the chance to go to, he was in Buffalo, New York, ended up running against a guy named Jackie Robinson. Took second to him in the 100. So Jackie Robinson, everybody knows him. And then 1941 and 1942, my dad was named an All-American. He ran the high hurdles. He was, would have had a chance, if it were not for World War II, to be considered at least to run in the Olympics. But the war kind of squashed that for him, and then the next thing you know, they're over there too. As I go back and I look at all this stuff, and I look at what has happened to my dad and how he felt, he was in some cases bitter. but it wasn't anything that he expressed so much. I think it was an internal thing because of the things that happened to him. But as time went by and a lot of this stuff started happening, he was first inducted into the Buddy La Rosa Hall of Fame. And that kind of started a ball rolling. And every 2 years, there'd be something in the paper and, you know, somebody at his house, and they're getting information and all this stuff. And then he kind of let go with some of this stuff and said what he wanted to say. But in the end, it all worked out. And I'm happy for them. I'm glad they got the acknowledgement that they deserved, even though it was late. The park, which is just up the road, it's on Congress Avenue up in there. My dad was still alive for that. And they used to live, their house was right next to where this park was. Glendale didn't have a track. They practiced in this park that was next to their house. So they didn't have a track to practice on. They would just go to the meets and run, okay? And one other note. On the back of this, there's another Saunders on here. Her name is Claudia Saunders. That's their niece, great niece. So it kind of runs in the family, okay? So I thank you, giving me my time. I know I took longer than anybody else here, but I was here. Thank you.
Thank you once again, the Saunders family. We greatly appreciate it. Mr. Saunders, if you, hey, I think Joe's recruiting some more Saunders for our track team. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Just don't send them to Mola, whatever you do. Greatly appreciate it. It's very impressive accomplishments, and we definitely appreciate you sharing that because knowledge is power, and it's very personal, and I really appreciate that and those accomplishments. Now with our next inductee, I think I started something on social media. I think that's really why I'm here. Is that what's going on, Joe? My question was, who was the best team in Princeton? So, you know, we have the outer rivals and we have the in-house rivals. And I tried to put up, you know, give some 90s folks some little encouragement. And 87 just keeps showing up. And then me and LaToya tried to hold it down for 94. Then Monica Johnson brings Parrish. And we're trying to keep that thing going. But 87 just keeps coming back to fruition. And I will say that originally coming from New Jersey, when I came here, my father said, well, there's two schools you'll go to, either Princeton or Moeller. And obviously went to Princeton. And the history is real. The tradition is real. We had a slogan. It was "The tradition continues." And a lot of this had to do with the hard work and sacrifice of the class of 87, as well as the other classes before us. So thank you, class of 87. So without further ado, the inductees are the 1987 football state champions, the class of 87. The 1987 Princeton Vikings set out a season with one goal, and that was winning a state title. USA Today had them ranked 7th in the nation before the season begun. They set out on their mission. After the rigorous two-a-day practices that season, they began with a 41-7 victory over Centerville and wins over Upper Arlington, Sycamore, Lima, Lakota, and Hamilton. Then in Week 8, they were dealt their first loss to the 1986 state champions, Fairfield. The Vikings then went on to beat Moeller 10-7 with a blocked field goal by Lawrence Gore. In the playoffs, the Vikings defeated St. X, Ghana, Lincoln, and Toledo Whitmer The state championship game was a hard-fought battle against Youngstown Boardman. Boardman took the lead in the third quarter. The Vikings were winning. Touchdown was scored by Lamont Calhoun on only his second carry of the season and gave the Vikings a 14-7 title game victory. Coach Mancuso stated that this team was collectively the quickest team to ever come through Princeton. Congratulations, the class of 1987. If you'll please rise if you're in attendance. We have a special acceptance, and then what I'd like to do is, upon the acceptance, invite you down front
Coach,
for a
are you?
picture, and Joe will meet you to hand you your well-deserved recognition.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm on a wheelchair. I'm standing up straight, and I still work out 3 days a week and want to stay that way. I would like to congratulate Coach Parker for his new appointment into the Viking family, and to congratulate the new members being inducted into this year's Princeton Hall of Fame. I know it's an honor that you will wear with pride. And Maurice, I know you're extremely proud and rightly deserving. But first, I'm here to honor this 1987 state championship football team and share with you the accomplishments that they've had. You know, they started out the season ranked number 7 in the country. We ended up the season with a 12-1 record. The first 2 non-league games, you know, were against 2 of the state-ranked teams, Centerville and Upper Arlington, and won both of them. Then they had 5 league games that they won with ease. And then at that time, you know, they were ranked after that game. They were ranked number 4 in the country. But then we sort of lost a game in there, and I'm not going to talk about that one. Then we had that last regular season game against Morin, and we won that one 10-7. And that was the first time that the King of the Block trophy was inaugurated. But what made this team special? You know, we had Sean Byrne and Marcus Thomas, who were I thought, the 2 best running backs in the country. And Doobie Burkholder was our quarterback, and as far as I was concerned, he was the best quarterback in the state. And but that didn't make up the team altogether. Others made up the team. This was truly a team effort throughout the year. We had a great offensive line. You know, they scored 132 points in the 4 championship games, and the defense was outstanding. They had 5 shutouts in the year. They only gave up 52 points in 9 regular season games and gave up only 27 points in 4 playoff games. So it was a team effort. And in trying to bring that out, Joe, I got to name some kids that were involved in the way they were that made it a team. And I'm going to take it pretty much by the game here. In the Centerville game, we had Doobie threw a touchdown pass to a young man named Brocksterman. Greg Thompson had a punt return. In the Upper Arlington game, Coco Williams, he made a great play on the goal line and stopped a touchdown. And then later on, he blocked a field goal. Gordy Chandler had a key interception that helped us win that game. Then we opened up the league against Sycamore, and on the very first play of the game, Marcus Thomas went 86 yards for a touchdown. Dwayne Woods caught a touchdown pass. Sean Smith caught a touchdown pass. These are all new names that were involved in big plays. In the Middletown game, Lamont Calhoun made several big plays on defense. Alan DeGraffenry kicked a field goal. Lima was also always very tough for us. And Gordy Chandler had an interception. It was a key interception. And Doobie threw a touchdown pass to Gordon Benning. In the Lakota game, I guess the important thing there was that Marcus Thomas set a record. He scored 4 touchdowns in the first half. Greg Thompson had a punt return for a touchdown. Lamont Calhoun had a interception return for a touchdown. And then in the Hamilton game, little Greg Thompson, he had a great night. He set the fans wild. He scored 3 touchdowns on punt returns. I'm sure Greg and the rest of the guys there know that and remember that. And like I said, after that game, they were ranked number 4th in the nation. Then came the other game that I'm not going to talk about. Then, of course, we had the final regular season game against Moeller, and it was a great game. I think it was nothing at halftime, and the key play started of the second half kickoff. Hunter recovered our own kickoff, and that set up a touchdown. And we ended up winning that game 10-7. And here another new name comes in. Larry Gore blocked a field goal late in the game that helped set up that win for us against Moeller. And, of course, anytime you beat Moeller, it's a big, big win. And then we start the playoffs. And against Xavier, defense shut him out. Kevin Hill had a great night. Beat him. A couple of knockdown passes in the end zone. Had a great night on defense. The Gahanna-Lincoln game was the second playoff game. And the only way I can describe that game is their coach. Their coach made a statement to me and also in the newspapers. He said, standing on the sideline, all I saw during the game were blurs going by me. It was just a group of blurs. Then the next playoff game was the Whitmer game, and Princeton set up another record. The offense scored, I think it was 51 points in the first half. And that got us ready for the Boardman game, which was the championship game when we played for the championship. And it was a bad night weather-wise. It was cold. There had been snow. There was ice on the field. It wasn't ideal playing conditions. But anyway, we got in the game and got it played. And it started out with Boardman going ahead of us 7-0. Then we scored and made it 7-7, and then the game kept going back and forth like that, primarily because of the weather. William Reese had a great night on defense. Now, we started that night with Greg Thompson playing at a right halfback position because Sean Vernon had an injury and couldn't play in that game. So Greg played that game and did a good job. And Greg will probably tell Sean that we didn't miss a beat while Greg was in there. But the big play of the game was Greg Thompson returning the punt. He returned a punt that down to about the 25-yard line that set up our go-ahead and winning touchdown. But the winning touchdown came from a young man, Lamont Calhoun, who was a great defensive player that only carried the ball, I think, twice for us throughout the year. But in that game, we were on the goal line. I put Lamont in the game at running back, and I called his number. He ran the ball, and he scored the winning touchdown. It was only the third time all year that Lamont carried the ball. Now, the reason I went through all those was because of all the different players that were involved in it that made it a team game. But we can't honor this team without honoring those from that team who are not with us now. From the team, we lost Eric Perriman, who was very young at the time, and we lost Gordy Chandler about 2 years ago. We also lost Coach Burns several years ago. And just recently, about a month ago, we lost Dr. Tom Todd, who I'm sure every one of those players that are up there on that stage right now saw him for one reason or another throughout their careers. You know, I want to just say that I want to close by saying that when you coached as long as I did at Princeton, some teams and players come along as special. This team was special, not just because we won a state championship, but who they were as teenage, young, 16, 17, 18-year-old young men. I want to say it was an honor and a privilege to have coached you young men. There will always be something special about your championship and how you worked so hard to achieve that goal. I believe that there were two signs in our locker room that summed up the reason for our success, your success. One of those signs was pride, and it was a large sign, and it was above the door going out to the stadium. And we always touched that sign every Friday night before we went out on the field before the game. We also took that sign on our away games. Now, I'm sure that they have that pride in that sign, and it means a lot to them. But they not only had that pride on the field, they had it in the classroom, they had it in the community, and they had it in the way you dressed. And I'm sure you still have that pride in whatever you're doing right now. And the other sign in the locker room that I thought contributed to the success of the team was also a large sign that said, the team, the team, the team. And that pretty much sums up the concept of who we were at that time and why these young teenagers gave so much, sacrificed so much to win that state championship. And to the coaches, any of you coaches who are there, who are part of this championship team, I'm grateful for all you did to make this championship and part of the Princeton program equal to no other. And for that, I thank you. I want to thank all the parents, friends who have come to honor all these deserving athletes. I want to end by saying, go Vikes, and see you all next year.
Coach, he almost had me ready to go play a football game. I don't know about y'all, but I tell you, he's great. He is absolutely great. So once again, class of '87, we want to give you your flowers, and we greatly, greatly appreciate you. But more importantly, I will say this, and Coach said this in his comments, is I'm very proud to be a part of this because at the end of the day, I see you all in the community. In '87, you show up, you show out, you support, you show love, you encourage kids, you motivate. So I actually see the leadership, and he already seen it when you guys were teenagers, but you all have become great men. And I really appreciate that as a younger Viking, looking up to you guys and looking forward to what I have coming to me and these young kids have coming up. So continue to be the light at the end of the tunnel for these young student athletes that are coming through. Please continue to stay connected, and we greatly appreciate you. So once again, class of '87 is in the building, class of '87. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it back over once again to our AD. Like I said, is doing an amazing job, but I want to leave you with this last piece for myself and thinking about today. Again, I am truly blessed to be a part of something that's been so extraordinary, but I want to leave you with this. The most important thing, the thing that unites us all, is that we inspire and challenge one another to become better, in the words of Kobe Bryant. Continue to be great. Go Vikes.
Thank you, Al, and once again, thank you for everyone for being here this evening. Coach Paul Andrews, Nicole Donnelly Cunningham, Maurice Harvey, Ross Morin, Joe and John Saunders, and our 1987 state champion football team. welcome to the Princeton High School Athletic Hall of Fame, class of 2020, the 15th class to be inducted into our Hall of Fame. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Give yourself a round of applause. That concludes the formal program for this evening. If we could, the members of the 87 football team, if you'll come forward, we have your engraved plaque up here. And then those inductees that have already been forward, plus the members of the 87 football team, if you could step right to my right and your left, we would like to have a group photo taken of all of you to conclude this evening. So thank you. In the back of your mind, mark down Friday, October 8th. Is that right, LaToya? Friday the 8th? Friday, October 8th. That is our homecoming weekend for Princeton High School. And we are going to recognize you as a team and as individuals in front of our football fans, in front of our stadium, as we bring people back to our campus, and we're kicking off homecoming in 2021. So we will get information out to you about that, but understand that along with the class of 21, the Hall of Fame class of 21, we will recognize you guys that evening as well. So again, thank you for coming, and let's have a great evening. If you'll come forward. Thank you.